Welcome to your Veterans Resource Podcast, Return to Roots. This podcast is for service members and their family members regarding retention, transition, and reintegration from active duty to veterans in the community. Hi, I'm your host, Chris Elder, an active duty Senior Chief in the United States Navy, and my partner in crime / host is Yogi Hernandez, who's an active duty chief in the Navy. Together, we are documenting our experiences as we prepare to transition and reintegrate into the community. Every podcast will have actionable content that will benefit American service members and their families, as well as those who have already transitioned and reintegrated. In today's show, we have Trevor Maxwell, a retired Senior Chief, EOD Tech, who's also with Military Money Mistakes and the Get2Vet Podcast. It's a privilege and honor to have you on here, brother.
Yeah, man. First of all, I appreciate the invite to come on and chat, and always love, there's an old saying out there, vets like helping other vets, or guys that are not vets yet, but will be soon. But yeah, I'm a retired Navy EOD Senior Chief. Actually, this May will be my 5th anniversary retiring. So, which I think about that sometimes, and I'm like, damn, that's crazy. But yeah, I live in Virginia, Suffolk, Virginia. I'm sure probably. So I don't know. Have you guys ever done any East Coast time?
That was my first duty station, Virginia Beach, 5 years.
Yep. Mine, I started off as a fire controlman. Used to be a DS, a data systems technician. That rate went away and we became fire controlman. Did that, came to C school down here, Dam Neck. Did some time on the prize, as we like to say, cell block 65. Did a few deployments on there. In fact, that's when 9/11 happened. That's where I was. We were on our way home from our first deployment. It was going to be a badass ending to our first deployment. We were going to cross the line, which for an East Coast carrier is a rare thing.
Right.
We were going to go down to Cape Town, check that out, go across the pond, hit up Rio, and do a Tiger cruise and bring everybody home. So, but instead, almost as nice, we turned around and stayed out to sea for 95 days, and we were one of the first units to actually launch attacks on Afghanistan. And yeah, did that. I had a great time, doing those deployments. Like when I think about those, how much fun I had on those deployments. I had a great crew that we worked with, awesome shop. CS5, that was my division. So we worked on all the stuff in the CDC. And the deployments, oh man, all the port calls we got to do and all the good times we had and all the stories we had about people doing messed up stuff. The guys we had like a guy who was an LPO get clamshelled on the what do they call that? At the carriers, they put the little barge there at the back so the ferries can get, because
Liberty boats.
Yes.
You're talking a Liberty barge?
Yeah, where the Liberty boats would come up to the little barge that was moored to the fantail.
It's called a Liberty barge.
Yeah, so we had that's one of my favorite memories, is seeing one of the LPOs there from our department get clamshelled. They had to hoist him up to the because he passed out and messed it. I don't know if we're R-rated or not on here.
That's all right.
Yeah, he shit himself. Okay, cool. He I curse like a sailor, but I try to be respectful of people who maybe don't. But yeah, he shit his pants, passed out, and that was all we talked about for like 2 days. Good times.
Those Liberty ones. I had a buddy of mine. He was a little guy, not very tall. I don't want to say his name because I don't want to tell a story, but back in my day, this guy, a tall, very short guy, he comes to get off the boat, and we were in Italy, and the waves were just like super crazy, and he like stepped down, but the Liberty barge went all the way down, and he fell. It was like a 9-foot drop.
Ugh. Yeah.
I don't know. And he didn't land gracefully. He landed on his face. So this
Oh,
is non-skid nastiness. And yeah, those Liberty barges, they can get some,
Yep.
some
Not a
fierce.
good time.
Yeah.
But
I almost got a clamshell too. We were having rough seas, and I was the ramp to get onto the Liberty boat. So I was already on the barge, right? And the ramp to the Liberty boat kind of fell off, and I was about to just go down. Luckily, some dude, like the guy that was actually part of the ship, the little boat, he just grabbed me and just pulled me, because I just saw myself and I was like, here's this is how I die. This is how I die.
I had a bunch of those. Yeah, no, but it was I had a good time. Like, but eventually I got sick of just some of the people that I felt like overemphasized things that I didn't feel like mattered. And I actually wanted to join the Marine Corps. I went to this military academy for kids that were complete fuck ups when they were in high school. It was like 6 months of Army boot camp, and then you get your GED, right? So I did that. I wanted to join the Marines. Everybody's like, no, join the Navy. So I joined the Navy. But I still kind of had that itch that I had to scratch, right? I was like, man, I want to do something where I get to jump out of planes and blow shit up. So my first deployment was the first time I met an EOD guy. And I was like, what the hell is that? And, somebody who didn't know, they were like, oh, yeah, they're like SEALs that disarm bombs. And I was like, oh, that looks cool.
Super
That sounds
cool.
cool, right? And, I come to find out it was like, okay, that's not entirely accurate. But, so I did that. My second deployment, I just walked up to one of the guys, was like, hey, man, do you guys like recruit? And he goes, yeah. And I was like, could I go talk to whoever your guys' recruiter is? And just started chatting with them and started PTing with them in the hangar bay. They did PT every day in the hangar bay for all the guys that wanted to go to EOD school or BUDS or dive school. And so we'd just get in a big circle and do calisthenics for like an hour and a half. And I loved it, man. I got psyched. And took the screening test, barely passed the swim, and got left the boat, went to do the dive school, EOD school thing, which was awesome. So, the EOD community, SEAL community, all those used to be, you had to, they basically took only guys from the fleet, right? It was a little different, back in the day. And now that they're rates, they take guys straight out of boot camp, right? That's your rate now. And there's some differences now, like, but so it's a little bit of a dynamic shift there, because you went from having guys who had already been in the military and stuff to now you have, I'll tell you this, like, I'm impressed with some of the dudes that are in here now. Like, they're sharp people. But it's just, I don't want to say it's good or bad, it's just different now. But yeah, so I did that, had an awesome career, got to do all the cool guy stuff you see on TV. I realized this stuff looks cool on TV, but it doesn't feel very cool when you're doing it, right? When you're like those nighttime wall locker hay-hos, like that shit is cold at 25,000 feet. And then you hit when you're under canopy for like 45 minutes, that harness is not comfortable. And then it's the middle of the night, you can't see shit. And then at 8,000 feet, everything fogs up and now you really can't see shit. There's some miserable, that's what I always tell guys, like, hey, if you want to do a career in this stuff, just make sure you're happy being cold, wet, and miserable. Because I spent a lot it looked cool. But no, great career. I got to work with a lot of awesome people and got to see and do some things that very few people on the earth will ever do or see. And I started getting, obviously I got older, your body starts to wear down, all the wear and tear. And for me, I had put on Senior Chief, and then like just the switch flipped inside me. It's like, that's it, man. I don't want to go any further than that. I don't want to be, because like any of those community, like SEAL, EOD, whatever, when you put on Master Chief, like the fun's over. It's like, here's your desk. And you sit there and get to watch all the young guys go out and have fun. And some guys are like, oh yeah, I love taking care of the young guys. And I'm like, okay, well, my thought was like, I gotta be able to find something where I can still do that and not be that guy, right? Because I don't want to be the like, yeah, wasn't for me. I was like, I don't want to be a Master Chief. If I'm going to sit behind a desk, I want to do it on my own terms. So I made the decision to retire, and that was a big thing for me. My decision to retire ultimately came down to time. And I kind of had that conversation with myself where I was like, hey, you know what? Whether it happens now or 5 years from now, it's going to happen. If I do it now, I feel like I'll be in a lot better spot 5 years from now than, had I stayed in and did all that stuff. So yeah, I retired at 20. Went to go start working in financial services, and it was weird how I did that. I went to go see a financial advisor, and just through the conversations, I didn't know. I thought I was going to go do a contracting gig or at some training company or something like that. And I went to go see this guy to help me get ready for retirement. And just one day he was like, so what are you going to do when you get out? And I was like, I don't know. And he goes, well, you seem like you like this. Maybe you should come work with me. And that had never even occurred to me, like maybe be a financial advisor. That's, I don't know. But I called him a couple weeks later and we went and grabbed a beer. And he was like, I told him, I was like, yeah, I'd like to maybe consider that. And he's like, are you serious? Yeah. He goes, well, it's kind of half joking, but yeah, if you really want to, let's chat some more. So we started chatting, went, did my last appointment, came back, took care of my guys, got my got all my stuff done, punched out, got my retirement NAM. And that's one of my other favorite stories, when I tell people that I have retirement NAM and they're like, what? I'm like, yeah, dude. I had to they wanted my retirement award, so they're like, yeah, write it up. So I wrote it up as a NAM. And so I had to fight for it every step of the chain of command. And they're like, what? No, this needs to be a con. Like, nope, it's a NAM. And I had to tell several people, like, I'm not changing it. And if you change it, I won't be there. I won't accept it. And so finally I had to go sit down with the XO. And I knew he was like, well, why do you want a NAM? So I went in with my khakis and my rack just to show off. And I was like, you see all this up here? He says, yeah. I was like, what do you not see there? And he's like, you don't have a NAM? And I was like, no.
I want a NAM.
So that was my retirement award. I had the junior guy on my team was getting his transfer award. He got his NAM, and then I got my NAM for retiring for 20 faithful years of service. But I got out, started working in financial services. I did that for a couple years at kind of a more traditional firm. And as I was kind of doing this stuff, it was just like, I feel like there's a better way of doing this job. And I know there has to be. And the guys that I worked with were kind of old school, more traditional. And so I had reached out to, I ran into this guy at a networking event. I had known him for a couple of years. We were introduced by a mutual friend. And I had just talked to him every once in a while. And then, I see him at this networking event. He's like, everybody else is wearing a nice suit and some nice jeans or pants or whatever. And they're all doing the same bullshit. Like, oh, let me hear your elevator pitch. Here's my card. Like this sucks. And here's this guy. He comes in wearing a t-shirt. He has a jacket and some jeans and flip-flops. And I was like, that is a lot more my style, right? So, and he just started talking. He's like, yeah, I have so many people that I'm trying to work with. He's like, I need more people to help me. And so I was like, I reached out to him a week later and I was like, hey, dude, I've been thinking about leaving where I'm at now for a while now. And I saw the stuff he was doing online with content creation and social media marketing and all. And I was like, I want to learn that, right? Because that was the epiphany I had, right? Nothing makes me more mad, like, when people continue to play that, oh, I just like to help people. Yes, I like to help people too. But guess what? This is my job. I have to make
Right.
money to do it, to support myself and my family. Right. So, that was another epiphany I had. Like, look, dude, do what you love, but also make money doing it. Right.
Right.
Because, inner fulfillment doesn't pay the electric bill. The price of eggs being what they are today,
Yeah.
But anyways, so I left my first firm after a couple of years. I started learning that stuff. I started learning about, all this content creation. And that's something that I really like. I kind of like got the creative juices flowing. Like I love writing. Like writing is one of my favorite things to do. I love teaching. When I was an instructor at the EOD training unit on the or on the East Coast, that was like my favorite job in the Navy. Like teaching stuff and I was a nukes instructor, right? So when I can teach nuclear physics to somebody and make it, click, like, oh, that's how this stuff works. You know, that makes, I was like, oh yeah,
Yeah,
I
that makes
like
you
that,
happy.
right? You can take something that's super complicated and break it down to a level to where everybody can understand it. And I thought, like, yeah, that's why don't I like this personal finance stuff? I've always been a numbers guy. Why can't I do that same thing with this? And so that's kind of what I've been working towards for the last 5 years. And now we're here today talking about it. I just kind of came out with it on LinkedIn today, talking like, this is my thing for 2023. And so that's where I'm at now. And that's military money mistakes. Right? I talk about all the dumb shit that I did throughout my career with all my money and the things that I still see people doing. And here's something I noticed over the last 5 years working with military retirees, right? Because that's ultimately my primary thing is, I help military retirees make decisions about survivor benefit plan and what do they want to do with their TSP when they retire. That's what I specialize in. I'll get into it later in another rant, but this is a very specific thing that I do. But then I thought, like, there's a lot of people out there that are still making bad decisions with their money. And I was one of them, right? So I kind of go back to my own story of like all these times, like literally there was a period of my life for about 7 years where I was like home for 6 months, deployed for 6 months, home for 6 months, deployed for 6 months. And I had all these bonuses and all these times I came back with $30,000 or $40,000 in the bank. And when I kind of went back and did the math, right, I had a business degree. I learned a little bit of Excel and I kind of went and ran the numbers to the best of my knowledge. And I came up with, you know what, I could have retired with somewhere between 800,000 and $1 million had I been smart, right? So I've had some very nice trucks. I have a lot of cool guns in my garage. But if you were to ask me, would you rather have that or $1 million? I would have said $1 million because guess what? I
Of
could
course.
still have a lot of cool guns in my garage with $1 million. And so I started thinking about that and I was like, what caused this to happen, right? The root cause, because that's my big thing. Like, the root cause is like what you need to attack. It came down to two things, right? I didn't understand how money works and I didn't know anybody who could help me, kind of get this stuff going. And that was kind of the genesis of military money mistakes. I'm like, every bad decision I made about personal finance came as a result of those two things. And so that kind of became my sense of purpose now, is to like, hey, I'll be that person. I'll go out and create the content. And the other thing is I try to, anybody who's in the military who puts transitioning military on their LinkedIn profile, they probably get them all the time, all these messages from financial advisors.
Yep.
There's, hey, have you considered a comprehensive blah, blah? It's all bullshit, right? Most of that stuff's automated. It's crap. I don't like it. It sounds inauthentic and I just can't stand it. I was like, I'm not going to be that person. I'm going to do something that I like, which is creating content about all this stuff and put it out there. I'll connect with people. If they don't want to connect with me, then okay, that's their problem, not mine. Right. I'll just keep creating this content. Hopefully more and more people will see it and they'll like it and they'll say, hey, you know what? Like this guy seems like he knows what he's talking about and he doesn't write these boring ass messages like every other financial advisor out there. We're like, I'm going to give this guy a call. And that's worked great. Guess what? It's like, yeah, I don't have to be the shitty used car salesman. And, you know, I can make a living doing this. I can be more like, because if you know me personally, I'm a giant goofball. Like, you know, telling dick jokes in the middle of a gunfight or, you know, whatever. Like, you know, like that's just me. And I, you know, I get excited talking about it. I don't know if you can see it. I do. I just get pumped up.
Just a little bit.
Thinking about it, like if this isn't on video, yeah, I do get pumped up. But I like it, man. It's interesting to me. I like kind of doing things different. That's probably part of the big reason why I went to the EOD community from the fleet, is because I hated wearing a uniform all the time, and I liked sideburns. And and it's funny, like the day I found out I made chief, I was in PT gear, you know, I hadn't shaved in like 2 or 3 days. The skipper and the CMC came out and they were like, hey, congrats, chief. And so then the CMC's like, hey, meet, you know, we're getting everybody together in the office. I'm like, should I go get cleaned up? He's like, you obviously don't give a shit enough about it right now. Why bother?
Exactly.
And so he pulled us in the office. He all handed us all a bush light and sat down and gave us a talking to. And yeah, so, but no, you know, I kind of like the whatever the fringe of the anything that I do. But yeah, man, I like it. You know, so the military money mistakes, right? Sorry, I go talking down a rabbit hole. But
Good, bro.
what is that,
Talking,
right?
man.
So, you know, over the last 5 years, I've talked about this. I see all these retiring E9s and 06s making the same bad decisions with their money as these E2s and E3s that come back from their first deployment. I'm going to send you guys some I'm making some t-shirts. I'll send some to you. But yeah, I'm trying to make funny t-shirts about personal finance. I don't know if anybody can do it. I think I can. But you know, so I think about that and I'm like, man, these guys are doing all this dumb shit and they're passing up an amazing opportunity because nobody else gets this. You know, I make $80,000 a year pretty much just waking up every day. Like that's, you know, of course it gets adjusted for inflation, but like who else gets that? Not very many people. And so, you know, all these other people, I mean, like you look at like a retired, a 30-year master chief with 100% VA disability, that they're making like $120,000 a year just off of that. You know, and so you got this amazing opportunity to do something to set yourself up for success for the rest of the life. And a lot of these guys are doing the same shit. They're, oh, well, you know, now I can buy a boat. Of course, I need to buy a bigger truck so I can tow the boat. And then, well, you know, I already got the truck. Why not buy an RV too? And shit, I need a bigger house to put all this stuff in. Right? It's just it compounds.
No,
right?
it's a vicious cycle. Yeah, it is.
Right. And so it's like, look, man, if you could spend the next 5 or 10 years, you know, using this opportunity to create something for yourself, why not do that? Right. So yeah, it's like, yeah, being disciplined, or what is it, that old discipline equals freedom. Sorry, I had to mute that to yell at one of my kids, but
don't worry, man. If I were living in Washington State, you'd be hearing me going, hey, knock it off, guys, knock it off.
Yeah. Well, he had a snow cone maker out. He's got this snow cone maker he got for Christmas.
No.
That thing is loud as fuck. And I was like, all right, you got to be done with that at 7:55.
Hey, how many chunks of ices do you have all over the house? Because
I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So you have to. Sorry, go ahead, Chris. Go ahead.
So the military money mistakes, man. That's like it's so awesome because I could hear the passion that that you were speaking the entire time, man. And what's funny is you're in shared company because Yogi and I both share the same financial passion that you do, because we see it all the time. Like we counseling with our sailors, talking with other people, because we talk to a lot of different people about this kind of stuff, and a lot of people just it's taboo to them. You say money and then they like, oh, you say the budget and they're like, oh, and I'm like, well, how do you achieve something? I'm like, do you write your goals down? They're like, oh, I write a goal down on a sticky note and then throw it in the trash 5 minutes later. But it's like, if you're not doing that with your money as well, it's the same thing. It's the same thing as your time. Same thing with anything. If you don't write it down, it's not gonna materialize. It's just gonna go away. Just like all those bonuses you got as an EOD guy, hogging up the hangar bay.
Yeah, well, I never did a carrier deployment, so I didn't get to. I'm trying to find this quote right now that I saw today. We were talking about. Oh, here we go. Right, this is kind of something that I really liked. It'll probably be a post eventually one day. Discipline leads to habits. Habits lead to consistency. Consistency leads to growth.
Yep.
Right. And so, yeah, like you were saying, that's kind of the important thing there. And that's what I'm trying to do is like teach this stuff. Like, it's a process. It's not an event. It's not going to happen overnight. And so, yeah, right. You have to arm people with the information. You have to teach them like, here's how to make, but ultimately, here's the thing. Like, I can teach you all this stuff. I can coach you. I can tell you what the right thing to do is. It's up to you to do it, right? You have to maintain that self-discipline, because like, everybody's like, oh, they were in the military, they were disciplined. I'm like, dude, not with their money.
Yeah, no.
Like, not with their money. And I puke every time I see these stupid USAA commercials where they're like, they call you by your rank. I actually put it in Navy Federal. I called them one day and I was like, hey, could you guys stop calling me Senior Chief? Like, I'm retired. And they're like, well, it's our policy. I'm like, just call me Mr. Maxwell if that makes you feel better. Like, I hate that, like that stupid gimmick. Like, oh, they still call me by my rank. Yay, America.
80-year-old Airman Timmy still getting called Airman.
Yeah, it was like me. Hey, hit me up, right? I thought this was funny. Like I say this a lot to people. They're like, well, what makes you different from other financial advisors? And I don't say, well, we have this proprietary whatever. I just say, I probably say fuck a lot more than they do. And I guarantee they're probably not wearing PT gear and Crocs every day, right? Like if you need a guy who wears a suit and tie and drives a Porsche, then I'm not for you.
I'm not your guy. Yeah.
Be like, I'm not wearing pants right now during the Zoom call. Like,
yeah. So,
Hey-o.
but no.
Got him.
Yeah.
Got him.
But that's the thing. Like, yeah. Hey, dude, international gay chicken champion right here. I won't stop until we're married and have adopted a child together. That was kind of our mantra.
I got the prenup ready.
Yeah. So, but anyways, yeah, to get back on track, like, yeah, so that's what Military Money Mistakes is going to become. It's going to become coaching, group coaching, obviously starting off of that, because, as we were talking about, right? Like what people are paying for, like, this is my opinion, having done this stuff for the last 5 years now and having, some designations, some certifications in advanced financial planning, the chartered financial consult, like a lot of the traditional financial planning, like you don't need that. It's overkill for like your typical military family. That stuff's probably great if you have millions of dollars and you have to shelter stuff from taxes, and it's severe overkill in my opinion for what most military families need. And that's what I like about the coaching thing, because now instead of like with a financial advisor, like a lot of them, they'll say like, hey, here's the policy. If you want to contact me, do not call me. You email our secretary, they will set up a call. we'll meet once a year or maybe once every 6 months. With the coaching, it's a lot more personal. There's touch points. We're going to use technology, these things right here that run the universe. You got more computer power than the Apollo space program in the palm of your hand. Let's use that son of a bitch, right? So, yeah, but we're more touch points more frequently. We're going in groups, so it costs less. I just think it's a better model. Like it's not. Yeah, it's overkill. And here's the thing that makes me mad too. Like I remember this Fleet and Family Services would come in and do these the GMT and stuff. It's crap. Because here's the thing, like all those people are building this training based off of articles that they Google, right? So I went from being the person that goes out and looks these articles up to a person who writes those articles. And my articles are probably going to say something a little bit differently now because I'm not trying to cover my ass. I'm trying to say like, hey, wake up, right? Like, there's a lot of this stuff out here, when they say, well, you need somebody who's a certified financial planner. Do they even know what that is? Do they know? No, they don't. They just know, oh yeah, I need a certified financial planner because they read it in some article somewhere who was probably written by somebody who's a certified financial planner.
Yep. And it's funny that you mentioned that. To some people, just having your life insurance or your health insurance, and they use the title arbitrarily saying, hey, I'm a financial planner because I got certified as that. And then you have the other ones, as you were mentioning, the ones that do the Series 66, the SEI and all of those things. And yeah, they do go to the other side of the spectrum that are a little bit overboard. So where exactly in the middle are you there? Because anybody can take those tests, anybody can study for those certifications, but do you really have the experience, the life knowledge, as you're mentioning, to be able to guide someone and coach someone to be able to say, hey, I was in your shoes,
Yeah.
Don't be me.
Well, not only that, but like, yeah, I could be in the same shoes as you, but do I have, it's all about having the perspective too, because, I'm not going to lie. There's like, the financial services profession doesn't exactly have the best reputation in the world. And I think a lot of that's deserved for some people.
It's like I know it's kind of like I tell people, I'm like, hey, you can literally search anything online. But there's a value if you put money to where your money, like if you put wow, money to where your money, if you put money towards an investment, like you put something of yours online to gain something, like there's some skin in the game, you're more likely going to achieve something. Now versus going on Google, you can Google everything. You can Google how to become rich. It tells you a million different ways in Google. But if it was that easy, we would be there would be no poverty, no homeless epidemic, no drugs. Like everybody would be happily, probably pot, but everybody else would be totally fine. But that's not reality, and that's why hiring somebody that's been in your in your shoes and knows what they're talking about, and it's not going to sugarcoat. They're not going to sugarcoat what the solution is. They may turn you into a sugar cookie through training and exercise and all that stuff.
Yeah.
They may take you through the hard, arduous times to get to that point where you will end up being successful, but that's what it is. No pain, no gain.
Yeah. What is it? Nobody ever got stronger lifting 5-pound dumbbells, right?
Right.
Resistance builds strength. And that's, it's funny you brought that up when you're talking about paying for stuff versus free. Like people ask me that too. Well, if you're so trying to be so altruistic, why are you? It's like, I'm not trying to be altruistic. I'm trying to be effective. Right. And in order to do that, you need to have some sort of motivation to want to win, right? And so paying, whatever a month, like we're figuring that stuff out, but it's like like if I just do this stuff for free, are you going to do it? You're going to be like, no, right? There's no value attached to it. Like you didn't say, well, I'm going to do this because I paid, $800 or whatever, however much it is. Like I paid this much for this, so I'm going to do it because now you have some skin in the game. If I did that stuff for free, people wouldn't show up.
Well, and here's the
They-
thing: you either pay in time by you doing your own research, or you pay monetarily.
Yeah.
Like it's either or. You're either using your time to pay for it, or you're using your money. You have to pay for it somehow, or else there's no gain,
Yeah.
gain at all.
Well, here's the other thing too. It's just it's having that again too, that perspective that I talk about a lot. And I think that's something that really kind of sets me apart is like the perspective that I have with this stuff, right? Because I like most people when you talk about financial planning, they think it's like, well, what stock should I buy? That's not financial planning. That's like if you want to know that, go get an E-Trade account. Like stop wasting my time. Because that's
So-
my other thing, right? My time is very valuable to me. And I'll be honest with you, like I have turned several people away from doing things because they, I had a guy who was like, I got $300,000 and I want you to manage it. And if it's second it goes down, you better put it in something that goes up. And I was like, I'm not the guy for you. You need an E-Trade account. He's like, what do you mean? I've got $300,000. And I'm like, that's cute. I mean, I've got tons of people that have that. And they're not assholes like you. But, it's like, I don't work for you. We work together, right? You are not my boss. You are my client. And we work together to help you do this thing.
Reach your
Now,
goals,
if that's, if you can't get that through your skull, then like that's never even going to start. Like that's like I have, the integrity and respect for myself to where I'm, I can say no to people. And I had to learn that too. Like it was another big mistake that a lot of people make when they first get into this industry when they're not because I'll tell you this, the chance of you getting in there and instantly making $200,000 or $300,000 a year, not going to happen. There's this thing, we call it the 3-year desert. There's a reason we call it the 3-year desert. It's because it takes a few years for you to really start making money doing this job and understanding what's important. That's why 95% of the people who start aren't doing it 2 or 3 years later. That's another popular thing too. A lot of financial services companies, they use recruitment as a means of prospecting. That's what you seem like you would be really good at this. Why don't you come in the office and we'll sit down and talk about it? The best way for you to really learn this job is to go through it yourself. Right? I've seen that all the time too. That like,
Hey Yogi, does that sound familiar, bud?
yeah,
absolutely, 100%.
And that's why, like I told Scott, who I work with now at US Vet Wealth, was like, hey, dude, we're not going to do that shit because you and I don't have the time to take somebody who's completely brand new to this and train them to everything they need to know to be successful, and then teach them what we do, which is, ultimately going to set us ahead of everybody else. Like, here's what we do. We find more guys like me who went and worked at some other company for a couple of years, got fed up with it, and said, hey, I want to learn to do what you guys are doing. That's who we're looking for to grow, right? Because otherwise, I don't need other advisors. I just hire more people to help us with the back end stuff. Like that's like I don't why that's but I see that's what the big financial services companies do. I'm not going to say names on here, but I can't without probably getting in some kind of trouble. But yeah, that's a really popular tactic. Oh yeah, you'd be really good at this. You should come in.
They know who they are. If you're
Because
listening,
the thing is, yeah,
they
don't give a rat's ass if 6 months from now if you're not there. Right?
Yeah.
Well, maybe if you last 6 months, they say, okay, this guy's managed to hold on. Let's put a little effort into him and see if we can turn him into somebody we can use. But, for me, I just was like looking at where I was and I was like, dude, I feel like I kind of plateaued here. Like there's no upward momentum for me. And I was right. And I realized like, it's because, what do they say? Like you could continue. It's just one of those things where it's like, here's this overly populated pool that's probably full of piss over here. Here's this other one, right, that's being built, like, and you can help build it, and there's not as much piss in it.
Right.
That's kind of the way I went, and it's tough, dude. Like starting something like this, like what we're doing. Yes, I made more money where I'm at now, starting like in the first 6 months. My first 2 years in the industry, you know how much money I made? $40,000 total.
Oh wow.
Had I not had my retirement and disability and some rental income, I wouldn't still be doing this.
Right.
But
You
get
know,
out, I leave there, I go to this other place, I start learning this stuff, and I made more money there in 6 months than I did my first 2 years. And I kind of realized that's when it clicked for me. I was like, oh, I see what it was. What I was doing wrong wasn't, I wasn't doing all this stuff right that they told me to do. I wasn't doing what I should be doing, right? I wasn't, that's why I tell people, like, I was able to practice my profession with more integrity, not like I was screwing people over at my last job. It's just, this is more the way that I was meant to practice this, right? To
Right.
do this, right? And it's been awesome because I've been a lot more successful at it. I'm a lot happier. I don't have to go buy a bunch of clothes or go to these networking events and stand there like an idiot with a beer in my hand for 2 hours and give the same elevator pitch. Because now people are like, what's your elevator pitch? I'm like, I don't have one, dude. Connect with me on LinkedIn and look at my content. If you want to chat, we could chat about something besides work, because, I'm not going to,
Try
there's
to
like,
sell me to you.
yeah, I don't care. Like, if you don't want to work with me, that's fine. Go talk to that dude over there that's with the shitty tie and
right. Here's the thing. Like when it comes to dealing with money, dealing with your time, not just with like building up your finances, but like building your tribe. You want to make sure that you have quality over quantity.
yeah.
Um,
Like I said, that's why we're not looking to bring new people on, right? We're just trying to do what we're doing now better,
mhm.
and then we build the back end out to support that.
And
Sorry.
you're going to find that with people that are more genuine.
Yeah.
You want genuine people. Like, hey, bro, this is me, man. I'm like, I tell Yogi all the time, man, I have a hard time getting dressed up, and that's just because it's just not me, man. It's really not. Like, I look good when I dress up,
Debatable.
But but it's just not me. It's just not my personality. And that's something that's like, hey, we got to be real up front. And it's one thing. It's like, man, I really want to fit in. Some of us are like, hey, I really want to fit in. But if you're fitting in while not being yourself, you're being dishonest to yourself.
Well, so I love one-liners. Like, I've always like looking at this stuff all the time. I thought this was a really great quote. Somebody said, like, if you spend all of your time trying to fit in, you'll never stand out.
Yep.
All right. And that's, you just got to have that fuck it moment and say, I'm going to go out and, we're going to go
Be
streaking through the
myself.
quad. All right.
Yep.
Streaking through the quad. Yeah. But, yeah, man. So that's the military money mistakes, the U.S. vet wealth stuff. That's kind of what I do for a living, right? That's kind of how I make money and, keep this beautiful face and everything.
Stash.
But yeah, so this beard, I had a pretty awesome beard in Afghanistan. I had a picture of me. So I was like, we had a grenade land in our compound. I was sitting in a chair taking a nap, and I got fragged by the grenade while I was taking a nap. And that was like the most
wow.
abrupt. And so, like, I wake up and I look down and I was like, oh shit. Right. And I got this awesome picture of me with like blood all over me, and I have the chest seal on, and I'm just giving a thumbs up. I don't have a shirt on. I am bathed in like, well, we took a bath in the irrigation ditch that, we had to make sure the Afghanis weren't pissing in it upstream from us when we were, but, so just awesome picture of me with this big bushy beard, and my hair was all gross and it was dirty as shit. And that's like one of my favorite pictures. now my beard, I don't like it getting much longer than this. This is, I just, yeah, it gets in the way, right?
Yeah.
But that was funny. Like I actually, one of the funniest things, I hate shaving. And when I got out of the military and I didn't have to shave anymore, I didn't mind shaving anymore. I would go shave. I was like, yeah, okay, I'll go shave.
I don't think it was a shaving problem. I think it was the being told to shave.
Yeah, that's what it is, right? That's the, I'm like people like if you were to ask me to describe my personality, I'm that dude in the movie that presses that big red button that says do not push. I can't tell you
Mhm.
why. It's just in my nature to do so.
I think that's
Right.
why you and I get along, man.
Yeah. Like that button is getting pushed. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, I need to make sure it works. I'll check.
Yeah. I don't even care what it does. I don't want to know what it does. I just want to push it. Why? Because it says not to.
We had
Right?
this big button in one of our maintenance controls, and it was just this big red button, and it said "Don't press," and it was just there, and nobody knew what it did. I pressed
Yeah.
that button. I pressed it real hard. It shut off all the power to the outside. Well, they're all working.
So you guys you were an air wing guy or were you ship's crew?
No,
Uh,
both of us are air wing.
yeah,
Okay.
I did I did some time in the desert, did some time on the ship, did some time as an air wing guy. I've cross-decked a lot.
So I always thought this was funny. Like some guys in one of the other divisions there in combat systems were telling me about this. They were messing with some air wing guys. They said, dude, air wing guys love to stand in lines. I was like, really? He goes, yeah. He's like, sometimes if we get bored, we'll just go somewhere and stand in front of a doorway. We get like 3 or 4 of us to stand in line, and these guys will just start lining up behind us.
You do it close enough to chow time, they'll think it's the chow line, and
Yeah,
then
you just go
yeah.
stand in line in front of a door somewhere, and they'll. It's like that's funny, dude.
Yeah,
But
that is facts. That happens.
yeah, so I wanted to talk about a couple other things too, like the military transition piece, like because that's something else I do a lot of stuff about. Like that was a very stressful time for me, and that's coming from a bomb tech, right? Like military transition, that was the most stressful time of my career.
How so?
It just it's long and pounded out, and you don't know what's going to happen. It's a big change because we spend this our entire lives having all this stuff spelled out. We know like this, right? When I go to a mobile unit, right? That's like our version of a ship, right? I know like I'm going to get my team. We're going to do the internal workup. Then, we're going to go do the training. We're going to go do the training unit. And then we're going to FEP out, and then we're going to go do a kind of integration training, and then we're going to deploy, and then we'll come back and we'll just do it over. Like I knew how that worked, right? There's a lot of uncertainty out there when you're getting out because you don't know what it's like. You're like, I don't know. Like you remember that scene on Step Brothers where Will Ferrell's talking to him. He's like, tell me, Dr. Angel Face is like, can you teach me how to be an adult? Like, do I carry my high school diploma around with me all the time? Right? It's a lot like that. And, like you just don't know what's going to happen. We went from having this like you'll see it too when you guys get out. Like you have this like nice warm blanket on, right? That keeps you snug and secure, and then you take it off and it's cold as shit outside. And you're like, oh man, it's now I'll say this. I always equate it. I talk to people about this. I remember my first jump at military free fall school. It was out in San Diego at OTI, right? I'm there at the door in my plane, and I look inside and I see all the guys on my team, and I'm like, well, I'm not going to look like a little bitch in front of these guys, so I'm going to do it. But I had a ton of anxiety. I was like, what am I about to do, right? I'm standing there at the door, and they even told us like, hey, don't worry, you're going to go out. You get to that door, you're going to go out of the plane. We'll make sure of that. It's just the real moment of courage is whether or not you get on the plane a second time. But same thing with transition. You don't know what's going to happen. There's a ton of anxiety. Everybody I talk to all the time feels it. I don't care how big and bad you were while you were in the military. It's different, right? It still affects everybody. Some guys doesn't bother them that much. Some of them are like, man, I don't know, I don't know what's going to happen, but it's going to happen, and it happens for all of us. And then you get out, right? And the same thing, like when I got out of the plane that first time, I started falling. I was like, oh, well, this isn't that bad, right? Same thing. You get out of the military and you're like, oh, this isn't as bad as I thought it was, right? Like, I can still function. I can still stand up when I pee and all this other stuff. And, you adapt to it. It's a change. Some people say it's like going to another command, and I'm like, nope, it's not. It's not like going to another command. It's like never going to another command again, because that's what you're doing, right? It's a completely different environment, and you got to learn. You're a new guy again. That's what I tell people. Like, just get used to being a new guy again. Think about when you were new, like brand new to the Navy, right? That's what it's like. You have to kind of go back and learn everything. And here's the thing, though. You've had 20 or 30 years of personal development to build up a lot of these high human skills that you need to be successful out there too. You know how to be somewhere on time, right? You know how to work as a team and provide, maybe you have to learn some of the nuances of that stuff. But I talk about this all the time to people, like those high human skills, like what people used to call soft skills. I have, my own podcast, which we'll have you guys on sometime, Get2Vet. I had this guy on here. His name was Harrison Bernstein. He runs a nonprofit called Soldiers to Sidelines, where he teaches people to be sports coaches. And I said soft skills, and he's like, I don't use that term anymore. I say high human skills. And I was like, I like that, right? That's the stuff. Hard skills, yeah, put that stuff on your resume. Maybe you'll get a job, maybe you won't. Those high human skills are what's going to make you a success on the other side of that. And that's why I told people, rely on that stuff. Understand that. Do a lot of digging. Like, find out who you are, because you're not like me. I'm not Senior Chief Maxwell anymore. I'm Trevor Maxwell, right? And you have to do the work to figure out like who that guy is, right? I think for me it was pretty easy. Like there wasn't a whole lot of difference. I just I think I actually done better out here. It's just not it's tough, it's scary for everybody, but you'll be okay on the other side. Just like skydiving, millions of people have done it before you, and a lot of them turned out okay. But
90%, right?
yeah, I mean, was it 60% of the time? It works every time. Yeah, so that's something, right? I do that. I coach through a nonprofit called the Honor Foundation, and it's like oh my God, dude, that goes leaps and bounds above what you get at TAP. It's a nonprofit. It was started by the Navy SEAL Foundation, funded it, and now the whole bunch of nonprofits help fund it, and they do their own fundraising. But it's a 12-week program, and they go super in depth into that. And the whole first phase, like the longest phase, the first phase is all about diving into you, like figuring out who you are. What do you want to do? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? And guys, when they started, they're like, "Oh, this is looking dumb." Like, oh, by the end of it, most of them are like, you know what? Actually, that was the most helpful part of that, right? Being able to detach from that. Because that was kind of my mentality going into my transition anyways. It was like, hey, look, man, that's not going to be me anymore. I can't tie what I used to do for a living to my sense of well-being. Because if I do that, that's not what I do anymore, right? It's not who I am. It's what it was. Something
What I
that
did.
it's had a significant impact on how I turned out as a person, as a human. And I'll always remember that. And it's nice, like here in Virginia, like all the East Coast EOD guys, first Friday of every month, a bunch of us all get together for breakfast and it's just a bunch of dudes in Citrus, like talking shit to each other and catching up and everything. And I still go to those just because I love seeing those guys, and I love staying. That's the other thing too. They say finding your tribe, like, it's good to have that support network there, especially other vets. And that's something that I've kind of seen is very important. Like if you're a veteran, it's good to be in a spot with other veterans because there's somebody there that you can relate to. And it's weird, like the guys that I worked and served with, I'm closer to them than I am, 95% of my family. Because we've shared that adversity together. We had those kind of bonds, and I still have faith. Like, I run into somebody, I'm like, yeah, that dude, like we can always we hadn't seen each other in 5 or 6 years, and you're just as good of friends as you were as when you left, right?
Yeah.
And even people, so I don't know, there's these videos on YouTube. It's called First Sergeant Little Top. Have you ever seen them? I'll send you a link to them. It was this Army guy. He was an infantry first sergeant. His brother was a Navy EOD tech. And he made these funny ass videos of like him encountering EOD guys in Iraq. And so we had him on the podcast. We had a call with him, a Zoom call. And then he came up here to Virginia Beach for this nonprofit thing that we did. And we see him, we're like, hey, what's up, man? And we start talking and just laughing and carrying on. And my wife was like, how long have you known that guy? I was like, oh, well, that's the first time we've ever met face to face. And she's like, how do you guys do that?
Dude,
Right?
I don't think people understand how how close, how fast, like veterans and also active duty. It's the same thing with active duty to veterans. Like,
Yeah.
it's like, hey, you're the trailblazer. You went before us. We're still active duty. As of today, January of 2023, for the record. I hope to hear this next year and say, yep, I'm retired now. But it's just so amazing how quickly we just bond together. Like nothing really required except for, there's no barrier. Like we just start talking and immediately start talking shit to each other because that's what we do. And that's how we show each other love, essentially, because we mess with each other. And that means like, yeah, hey man, you're cool. You can deal with it. I can deal with it. And then you know that you're getting the real talk from the person that you're dealing with,
Yeah. It's funny. I'll tell you a funny story. Like my first firm I was at, the more traditional thing. I'm sitting in there, there's this kid that worked with us. He had just graduated college like a year before. And there was a buddy of mine that I had served with. It's an EOD guy, lost his leg in Afghanistan. He's there with his wife who's pregnant with their third kid. And they're sitting on a couch. We're sitting in the chairs and just talking, kind of being friendly and everything. And he was like, yeah, I got fired from my team, whatever. And so, he had lost his leg in Afghanistan. He had his fake leg. And I was like, yeah, man. I was like, how'd you get fired? And he kind of told me, and I was like, man, I guess you really didn't have a leg to stand on there. And this kid's face, he was like, holy shit, what did you say to that guy? Oh my God. And he starts laughing. His wife is laughing even harder than he is. And this kid's like terrified, like, oh my God, did you really just say that to that guy?
If that 19-year-old would have said some shit like that,
yeah, he would have just been like, fuck are you, right?
Yeah.
So, exactly.
But no, that's kind of the one other thing I wanted to talk about too. Like my, and I think that's how we kind of got connected with like my podcast. I've been doing this Get2Vet. How it happened, my buddy Mike, who was my first team chief in EOD, it's funny, like he kind of mentored me when I came into the EOD community, and I mentored him when he came into the veteran community, because I retired a few years. He did 30-year, CMC and all that stuff. We're both from West Virginia. We both have the same birthday. And so we're sitting there watching a Mountaineers game at Buffalo Wild Wings, and I think it went into like triple overtime. So we're like 7 tall boys into this game. and he just starts talking about how pissed off he was at his tap class. And he's like, we're just sitting there drinking. He's like, we should start a podcast. And so we just started, talking about it, and it turned into a podcast where we talk about military transition. And that's been going for about 2 years. We haven't recorded a whole lot lately. We've both been very busy. But that has been a really fun experience too. And, I'm sure hopefully you guys are having fun with this as well.
Oh, absolutely.
But, something that I, we talk about sense of purpose, sense of fulfillment, things like that, kind of a sad story, but also like one of my personal proudest moments of my veteran life so far. I think we talked about this not too long ago. I had this guy come on the show, medically retired Green Beret. He was 38 years old. 3 years ago, he had gotten diagnosed with colon cancer. And, his big thing was like, you know what? I just want to get out there and share like what I've learned over the last few years. So he went through all these treatments. And then finally, the doctors told him and said, there's nothing we can do for you. Right. So he was terminal. And I was thinking, like, man, I couldn't believe, all those times in deployments were in hairy situations. And you're like, yeah, I might not make it out of this one. Right. This guy knows for a certainty, like, yeah, I'm not going to make it out of this one. And so he's like, I just want to come on. I'd like to talk about all the things that I've learned. And hopefully somebody learns something from this. And the whole message he wanted to get across is like, be your own advocate. And we started talking. He goes through, he says everything he's got to say. And I'm like, yeah, man, that was awesome. I'm going to get this done. It's going to come out next Monday. We recorded his episode on a Thursday. And he was like, yeah, I really appreciate you giving me the opportunity to come on and talk about this stuff. And we're like, yeah, we're glad to have you, right? The episode came out on Monday, and then Tuesday evening, we got a text that he had passed away. And, that was, it made me tear up. I mean, I've been to a lot of funerals of, one of my best friends passed away. He was the first American killed in Syria, Senior Chief Scott Dayton. And that was a crushing, especially for all of us, because we had lived all these years through all these combat deployments, and all of us were like, yeah, we thought we all made it. We're all going to be old guys together and sit around and talk shit. And, when that happened, that was a hard blow. But, so I dealt with this stuff a lot. But then, that guy, finding out that Derek Griffin was his name, that he had passed away, that doing the podcast made me feel like, yes, dude, that validates things that I've been doing, stuff like this, right? And what you guys are doing, right? So if you ever feel like, oh, what I'm doing isn't worth it, you never know when it's going to be worth it. And so, I was super sad to find out that he had passed away, but I was also super proud that we got to help that guy, do something that he really wanted to do before he passed away, to make him, and hopefully we did. Hopefully he felt like, you know what, man, I helped somebody else through something. And that really is, and that's why I tell people this all the time, like, dude, especially if you're retiring and you have a pension and VA disability, don't chase money, because that's not going to make you happier. Chase purpose, chase fulfillment, because those are the things that really matter. At the end of the day, trust me, I talk to tons of people that make a lot of money. They're completely fucking miserable all the time. And it breaks my heart, because then I think about this guy who's like, hopefully I was able to make him have that sense of fulfillment, and help him do that. And so, I say that all the time, and I'll say it again too, right? Like, find that sense of purpose, because I guarantee you, of all the things that you'll find out, that's probably the one that's the most important, and that's the one that'll make you feel most like you were a successful human being. Because then at the end of the day, like, as we we talk about that, like, at the end of the day, do you feel like you're a successful human being? And think about the things that are important to you, and yeah, I guess getting your priorities straight. So Yeah, sorry. I hopefully I didn't end that on too somber of a note. I can tell a dick joke or something if you want, so we can end on a high note.
Nothing more classic than a dick joke. The Romans, they found pictures in the caves where the Roman soldiers used to hang out, and they were drawing dicks back in the day then.
Yeah.
You want to hear? You ever hear of the sky penis?
Oh yeah, dude. That dude's
Yeah.
a legend.
Yeah, that's my community, by the way.
Yeah. That dude was there's a comic strip called The Terminal Lance. Have you ever read it?
Yes.
Marines.
Yep.
They did a tribute to him.
Yeah. I've met it. I've met the dude, and I was out there in the Whidbey Island when that happened. So that was that was. And if you ever get the chance to listen to the audio, it's pretty funny.
Oh, if you have the audio, send it to me. Was it not all heroes wear capes, but some of them wear flight suits?
And it wasn't a sky
Some wear
penis.
flight suits, yeah.
It wasn't a sky penis, it was an Arby's hat.
Oh, okay. There's an art. I like that. That's a good comeback. I always appreciate the creativity there. Oh man.
Yeah, man. Hey, no, I'm glad you told that, because it's being your own advocate is so important. And Yogi and I, we're kind of a weird predicament, because we're both Yogi's got over 20 years and I'm just right below 20 years. And we're both here on possibly going med board. I find out tomorrow if I'm actually going to be a med board. And so that means retirement, but medical board evaluation. And that's like it's scary, because like just all the stuff that's been going on medically and stuff like that. It's like there's been times I swear, like for a while I thought I was like I had a tumor or something going on. Like I still, like even now I still think I have like cancer or something going on with me, because of all my symptoms I've been having, and nobody can really give me a full on answer. Like, why do I have this cascading events? And I kind of attribute it to not getting taken care of while I was in,
Yeah.
and I waited till too late to deal with my stuff. But you know how Navy medical is. You go there and you tell them about something, they just give you some Motrin and send you out the door.
Oh man, I could spend a long time on here talking about that. I tell you what, I'll introduce you to a good friend of mine that we had talked about earlier, who had some issues with that, and maybe you can have him on there and talk about his experience too, because it's tough. And it's something I even think about too. Like, man, is that gonna happen to me? Because a lot of my friends, a lot of guys that have been the same places I've been, around the same age as me, this stuff happens quick. And I had a guy that lives down the street from me, retired Army guy, was a Vietnam vet. Found out he had cancer, went into the hospital. 2 weeks later, he had passed away. Yeah, so it's staying on top of that stuff and is the key to success when it comes to that. But yeah.
I really appreciate you actually coming on to our podcast and talking about military money mistakes. That sounds really awesome. And maybe I'll bring you on to my other podcast, that's talking about financial independence, Chart Your FI. So
Yeah.
we'll link up there too, man, because that's what we need. We need somebody that's out there helping people out, making wise decisions. And to Get2Vet, that's how we found you, because we were listening to other transitioning podcasts and we're like, wow, these guys sound great. And
You know what our biggest hang up was getting the podcast started? We're like, man, I just hate hearing the sound of my own voice. And then we did it, right? And
You
we
know,
were like,
and
oh, that's not
what's
so bad.
what's really funny is I have the same thing, but I always get told, "Hey, Chris, you have a really good podcast voice," and Yogi's always like, "Hey, Chris, you sound sexy all the time, all the
You
time."
do.
That's
Your
what keeps
voice,
me
yeah, you
going.
got that. Yeah, I think you do have a pretty good sounding voice. So, but yeah, man, Fridays at 1 on LinkedIn. We'll be doing the live sessions pretty much every week. I don't know, maybe I'm doing something on a Friday or something and can't make it, but that's kind of the goal. So
Yogi,
Awesome,
you got
bro.
anything?
Well, Trevor, again, just like Chris said, we're honored to have you here. Thank you for teaching us. We're obviously gonna keep in touch, and we have connected more than you think. As a
yeah,
matter of fact, hopefully, if life, permits, I might come visit you over there in Virginia here in a couple months. We'll see how that turns out. Just a quick
yeah,
pit stop, and then we'll see how things go. Part of the whole, as you mentioned, kind of growing up and experiencing new ventures. But if not, man, we'll keep in touch and we'll help grow the community to help veterans, man. And I think the community is there to help veterans. The problem is the knowing. You don't know what you don't know, right?
yeah,
And we were talking to one of our other buddies. His name is um, Maurice. He was mentioning that there's approximately 66,000 uh, nonprofit organizations that are there for veterans.
yeah.
And to be fair, how many of those do you know about? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean that's very few, and I tell that to people all the time. People ask me, they say, "Well, I want to start a nonprofit," and then I say, "Why?" And they're like, "What do you mean, why? It's a nonprofit." I'm like, so it's still a business, right? A nonprofit is a business, and there's a lot of competition out there. Like maybe instead of you starting your own, go work at one, right?
Exactly.
Go find one that does something that you believe in, and go work with them, and
And just
maybe
make it
you'll
better.
learn a thing or two. And then maybe you do it for a few months, and you're like, "Oh, this sucks. I don't want to start my own nonprofit." I say
Mhm.
this: if there's one thing that I've learned, uh, the world of nonprofits can be very cutthroat.
Yeah.
A lot of people wouldn't suspect that, but it is. Like, did you ever watch that movie Death to Smoochie?
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's not that much of an exaggeration.
Absolutely. And it
Yeah,
is all about who you know. It's not really about what you want, what you're trying to accomplish, but it's about who you know, what you know, and you're delivering. I would say 90% of it is luck, timing.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yep.
So, but
I would
no,
agree.
Trevor, pleasure. We will keep in touch, and we will love to come into your podcast whenever you want to.
Yeah, we'll
And
get it set up.
absolutely, bro. Thank you so much. You got any parting words? Anything that you want to share with our audience?
No, I would just say, like, connect with me. LinkedIn is where I spend a lot of my time. I love sharing information. I mean, I kind of feel like that's the key to success is sharing that. And vets love to help other vets, so don't be afraid to reach out. Don't if somebody tells you no, it's probably because they're an asshole, not you. So yeah, but I appreciate you guys having me on, and yeah, we'll have you guys on Get2Vet here before too long. But now I got to go tuck some little dudes into bed. So
Have fun, bro. Thank you for your time.
all
Yeah,
right,
man.
take care.
Yeah, take care.
All right.
Bye.
Do us a solid. Share this content with everyone you know, regardless if they're associated with the military or not. This content will help someone you know and hopefully will lessen the deadly gap after service. Our goal is to do whatever we can to reduce the number of suicides from 22 to 0 within the community. Give us a 5-star review, follow, like, and subscribe. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, TikTok, and you can follow us on LinkedIn and Instagram for more content from our guests. These are our personal experiences, and we do not represent the views of the United States Navy and or the Department of Defense. Your transition is ultimately up to you. Please do your research and ask questions. Use Master Chief Google or ask a friend and network within the community that you belong to. Return to Roots out.